Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We obviously now have the final season of Vanguard and Warzone live with Season 5. And to start things off for this season, we do have 2 new Battle Pass weapons. If I were to go through and check that out, we of course, okay, I have a celebration first, but at tier 31, we have the RA 225 SMG. Then at tier 15 or 16, I believe 15 actually, we have the EX1. Both of these are free for anyone who gets to those tiers. If you buy the Battle Pass or not, you're gonna be able to access these. And with them, we get some very interesting dynamics for gameplay. We have the EX1, which is a full-on laser gun, and then the RA 225 is your pretty standard SMG. Today, we're breaking down the setup for both of these. I want to talk first the EX1 because I think this is what most players are going to have their eyes on. And admittedly, I think it's a bit underwhelming here in Warzone. Now, over in Vanguard, slightly different story. The thing is very strong over there. Here it's strange though because they designed it to be more balanced here, right? So it has worse recoil, worse velocity, and limited ammo in Warzone versus Vanguard where it doesn't have those aspects. So you have to take that into consideration. Also with the ammo here, the reload, because it's a laser gun, basically has a cooldown essentially. So you have various attachments that increase the ammo reserve, aka your charge capacity. Same deal with some of the magazines here, increased ammo reserve, which is basically an extended mag in this case. So those will help out in certain situations, but it still ends up becoming a very awkward gun. Because of that, we also have a lot of different options for the barrels as well. For instance, the Charge Amp PV makes this a slower firing, heavier hitting gun, so it's very semi-auto sniper like, if you will. Think Dragunov, think M82, but from my experience testing it in game, fairly weak, not really worth using. It seems like it's a worse marksman rifle, which obviously just got buffed with this last update. You got things like the condenser barrel, which turn it into more of a DMR or M1 Grand style semi-auto gun, which is a little bit more consistent and easy to spam, but it still doesn't really feel all that strong in my opinion. The short barrel here would work for like a super close range build, but this also is not a very fast or agile weapon. So trying to build it into like an AR SMG hybrid, not really doing it either. The burst barrel is not it at all. You can't go fully auto like you could on the NZ burst barrel, right? So despite the plus full auto factor there, it just means you don't have to shoot every burst. If you hold down the trigger, it'll keep bursting, but damage is not great. Then you got the Grat Barrel here, which gives you basically better control, better flinch. Nothing too crazy though, like it's a very standard rifle barrel. And in this case, I do think this is the best option, but none of them really feel all that great. Like the damage for any of these builds that I've tested is just mediocre at best. For the muzzle, you also got a couple of weird choices. Coil Amp gives you better damage, better vertical control, but it hurts your range. And really, I think this is best as like a mid-range rifle, so hurting that range, not really ideal. The Relay gives you better ammo reserve, so an extended mag in a sense, and better horizontal control, but I don't think that's really like a huge focus point or point of emphasis for this gun. So you're kind of left with the disc trim, which is better range, better control, just makes it slightly easier to use, but it does hurt your damage a little bit. So like all these are kind of unfortunate. You then get to the optics, and something I always try and do with the new weapons here is level it to the minimum level for the most ideal build. So in this case, I went to 61. I leveled it up once in Plunder when I was testing it. If you want the 3 to 6 times scope, that's what you get here at level 70. But to get to 60, you basically have all the main attachments you need outside of the 3 to 6, which now has glint and was slightly nerfed. So I've been running the 2.5 times. You could also potentially run a slate reflector on here though too. That would help out with some of that clean, close to mid-range fights, which again, I think that's where this sort of thrives, is that late close range, entire mid-range, maybe early long range. So from like, you know, 25 to 70 meters, I think that's really where this gun is going to be its best. I'll go for the 2.5. For the stock, to me, it's a very clear choice. You want to go for the Anchor. This is going to give you better initial control, better recoil, better aiming stability in general. These other options, just not really a huge fan of, especially like removed. Even going for like a close range build with this on there, just didn't really feel all that aggressive and all that strong. The under barrels are kind of weird. We only got 4 options. Enemy nameplate range, completely obsolete, not worth using. Pistol grip is not going to be good for our main like consistent rifle build, so you're left between hand stop and Carver. Carver's going to have that slower ADS, better for vertical control though. Hand stop is more general control, a little bit of horizontal, a little bit of vertical. I feel like Carver is going to be the most noticeable in this build. I tried hand stop and it didn't really feel like it was doing all that much, so Carver to me again the way to go. For the magazine, initially I thought we were going to go for the reserve battery, which is like your extended mag to help out with the fire rate and whatnot here, making sure that you weren't reloading a ton, but it didn't feel like it was all that consistent. I found the most success using the quick current battery, which basically just increases the fire rate a little bit so that you don't burn out of ammo too fast like you would with the quantum high voltage, but this still helps out some. For the rear grip, I end up going for hatch, just basic control there. For perk 1, I like sleight of hand. The reload on this thing is not great at all. Whether you are using any of these magazines, it's not fantastic. If you get caught reloading, you are going to get taken out. So sleight of hand there, and then I went for on hand for that faster ADS as well. It's a very awkward weapon. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think this will be top meta. It is like borderline viable and competitive. We'll of course break down the full list probably later today, but for the EX1 initially here, nothing crazy. I'd anticipate a buff to this thing so they can get more blueprints and whatnot. Obviously, I'm using the Minecraft blueprint here, and I imagine they probably want to sell that bundle a little bit more. So right now, it's not really looking like anything fancy. That's the makeshift build that I'd use here to make it as good as it can be for mid-range primarily. Then we get to the RA 225, in which case I'm just using the Battle Pass blueprint here because I only got this one to 62, and you pretty much have the most consistent build available at 60 in my opinion. The only thing you're really missing would be the Rapid Barrel, which you get at 63, and that's not the main barrel I would recommend for this SMG after testing. It's one that is an option, so if you want to try it out, certainly get it to 63, but you don't need it in my own opinion. So initially here, I'm going to go back to the blueprint so we do have that barrel if we need it. I'd start off with the recoil booster, which is like a level 60 unlock, so you have to go high on this thing, but you want that increased TTK and that increased fire rate. We'll stick with the rapid barrel for now, again helping out that fire rate for that optimal TTK, or like the fastest TTK I would say. There is a more consistent build that I'll break down here momentarily. Gonna go for your basic slate reflector here, standard iron sight, nothing too crazy there. I want the MB stock. This will help out with movement speed and sprint to fire, makes it a bit more aggressive. None of these other barrels really work for that ideally, so MB is kind of your best choice there. For the underbarrel, I was using skeletal when I was testing it out just to see if the recoil was too bad. For the fast build here, I probably wouldn't go for skeletal for the fast TTK. You might want something more like hand stop or even strife angle to be a bit more consistent with the recoil. Just, you know, keep that in mind. Honestly, steady could be a decent one as well because that offers a little bit of vertical and a little bit of horizontal, so you could get away with that. The recoil on this build though is what's going to hinder it. It's obviously got the best TTK possible, but nothing crazy. For the magazine, 38 rounds is not enough outside of solos. If you're a solo player, go for the Gorenko 38 here. Those will work for that. For duos, trios, and quads though, you have to use 55. Like 38 is just not practical for squad engagements. It's well under the threshold, which I would say is like 45 in most cases. So definitely an unfortunate aspect to this gun. You could go for lengthened, subsonic, frangible, hollow point, really any ammo you like to use, go for that, whatever feels the best to you. For the rear grip on all my subs, I liked using taped. If you want this fast TTK build and you're not a fan of the recoil, you could always go for hatch, but I personally prefer the mobility benefits of taped. Perk 1, definitely going for tight grip here for that better control during sustained fire. You'll notice we're not using any initial firing recoil attachments here, so no worries about that. Then perk 2, I'd go for quick for that better sprint speed. This build is the optimal TTK setup. It's going to give you a very, very fast close range TTK, but outside of 20 meters, you're probably not using it because the recoil is not ideal. If you, especially on console, I should add. If you want a more consistent build, I personally would go for the needle barrel, which gives you better velocity and better horizontal control. This build in particular makes it seem like it has no recoil whatsoever. It's very, very easy to use. I'd also switch back over to the skeletal underbarrel because the recoil is so much easier. You might be asking why needle? Well, better velocity is going to make it feel like it has better hit reg and just more consistent in some mid-range, and better horizontal control takes out the random RNG-ness of its bounce. Vertical is very straightforward and easy to counter. Pat is not it. As much as I love Pat, great friend of mine, it's mainly meant for hip fire, so that's not really all that great. 12.5 is meant for a more aggressive build, and when I tested this out, it was certainly usable to an extent, but it didn't necessarily feel like it was all that great. Then also the surge barrel is better for limb damage, but it hurts body and headshot. If it only hurt one of those, I'd consider it more, but I feel like needle is the best choice, the most consistent all around for anybody who wants a gun that's going to shoot straight. 12.5 would be the alternative here, in which case it'd be more of a strafe build if you were you'd use this, and you might also want to switch out taped for granular even, so you can end up getting some more strafe speed out of that. Like this would be a super great strafe build and very fast for that, with taped on here, and then with the needle barrel, this would be the most well-rounded all-around build in my opinion that I think most players are probably going to enjoy. As far as how it compares to other subs though, mediocre TTK from my experience. It's good up close if you're using the fast rapid barrel here, but outside of that, it seems very similar to like the well gun, I think would be the closest comp. So TTK is definitely nothing absurd. This is not a broken SMG by any means. So that said, those are the best setups for our two new Season 5 Battle Pass weapons. For what it's worth, the pistol is out. The pistol, that's a revolver and a melee. You can't put attachments on it. And let's be real, it's not a meta weapon here in Warzone, and I really don't think either of these weapons shine that much. They're both competitive in certain areas, viable as well, but nothing crazy. I don't think either of them are dominating their respective metas, or their respective niches, I should say, so nothing too crazy with these guns. That being said, that's gonna wrap things up for this video, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it, and if you are new to the channel, or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with everything going on in COD. News, updates, loadouts, tips, you name it, you're gonna find it all right here. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.